The stage lights burned like twin suns above the empty hall, hanging low enough that I could feel the phantom warmth of their filaments on my cheeks. 5,000 steel-backed chairs waited in disciplined rows, an army of silent silhouettes preparing to judge every note that would soon tumble from the stage. I shifted my weight from one boot to the other and curled my fingers around the maple neck of my worn vintage Strat, letting its familiar heft settle my pulse. Somewhere beyond the curtain, a roadie checked a mic stand, releasing a metallic ring that echoed off concrete walls still damp with last night's thunderstorm. My name is Post Lyra Calder, and 2 hours from now, I was supposed to play the longest, fiercest guitar solo I had ever written, a 7-minute hymn of grit and comet-bright fury that had taken root in my bloodstream the night my ex-bandmate smashed our partnership to pieces. Tonight was meant to be my redemption. Instead, I already sensed betrayal coiling in the wings, the way you smell ozone moments before lightning tears the sky. We, Velvet Echo, had spent 3 years clawing our way from basement dive bars to opening slots at mid-size festivals. Our sound was equal parts smoky blues and punching alt-rock, wrapped around the twin guitars Finley Gray and I wielded, like dueling lighthouses on opposite coasts. For every riff he carved in glassy marble, I answered with a line that melted asphalt. The friction made sparks, and the sparks drew crowds. People started chanting our names in tandem, Finley, Lyra, asterisk, until the syllables blurred into one heartbeat. Until the night he decided one heartbeat wasn't big enough for two. Rehearsal should have been routine, check the set list, tune up, run the bridge of our latest single until the drummer stopped sweating. But even under fluorescent warehouse lamps, I noticed Finley's jaw muscles working like he was chewing through secrets. He kept glancing at my pedal board as though it might explode. I chalked it up to nerves. This showcase could land us a coveted late-night talk show booking, so I smiled and asked if our levels felt balanced. He said perfect without meeting my eyes. We kicked off a run-through. The first verse rolled smooth as black coffee. The chorus soared, layered harmonies threading through amps cranked just past polite. Then came the cue for my solo. I inhaled, let my pick hover, and Finley barreled into a blistering lead line that wasn't his. The melody was unmistakable, the opening phrase of asterisk my solo, the one I'd written in the hush after midnight when insomnia sounded like sirens outside my window. I froze for half a breath, stunned silent as his notes climbed a staircase I'd built from bone. By the time I found my footing and joined in, the magic had already been claimed. The rest of the band surged after him like birds following a sudden wind. When the final chord faded, Finley flashed a grin wide enough to house all his ambitions and yelled, "That's the take!" I forced my lips to match his enthusiasm, even though my lungs felt vacuum-sealed. Friends don't sabotage rehearsal in front of the label representative lurking by the snack table. Friends don't pretend your heart-poured composition belongs to them. But I swallowed my outrage like a lit cigarette, because the show was tomorrow, contracts were pending, and I couldn't afford to torch everything we'd built, yet. During loadout, he cornered me by the van, humidity turning his curls into a halo. "Listen," he began, resting a leather-ringed hand on my shoulder. "Your solo slays, but we both know one guitar feature drags the pace. We need something tighter for the industry crowd." His voice oozed charm practiced over dozens of backstage mirrors. "So you cut me out of my own piece?" I whispered, conscious of crew members milling 10 feet away. "It's still our piece," he said, eyes shining too bright. "Trust me, this is strategic. Tonight you'll back me, tomorrow I'll back you." He clapped my shoulder and strolled off before I could answer. The night swallowed his laughter. I didn't sleep. I sat on the fire escape outside my apartment, guitar across my knees, city steam curling around my sneakers, and I practiced the solo anyway. Let finger calluses split, let steel strings draw thin lines of blood, because that riff was all the truth I owned, and no rewrite could change its pulse. Hash hash hash. Show day arrived dripping with August heat. The venue, a converted locomotive depot, smelled of diesel ghosts and spilled IPA. By soundcheck, VIP lanyards bobbed like medals around sleek necks, journal editors, playlist curators, and a radio host whose midnight program could skyrocket a single into orbit. Every handshake felt like a chess move. Finley strutted in wearing a silver snakeskin jacket that refracted house lights into daggers. He handed the stage manager a freshly printed set list. I scanned the page. My solo slot was gone, replaced by an extended bridge labeled Twi, Shred, 7 bars. 7 bars. My masterpiece reduced to furniture background. I caught his sleeve near a stack of flight cases. You promised. He didn't flinch. I promised momentum. If we nail tonight, we both win. I wrote that solo for my voice, I said, feeling the words quake. Then sing backup like the queen you are, he answered, already turning away. Rage tastes metallic, like you're biting a coin. I walked on stage an hour later beneath strobes that painted our faces lavender and cyan. The roar of the crowd battered my sternum. We launched into the first number. Adrenaline tried to drown my fury, but fury swims. By mid-set, my muscles moved on autopilot while my heart drafted exit strategies. Then came the bridge. Finley stepped forward, nodded at the drummer, and ripped into the spotlight. Whispers of my melody threaded through his improvisation, but he bent them, distorted them, made them scream his name. The audience responded exactly as he'd gambled. They lost their minds. Cheers rained like confetti. My pick scraped strings that felt suddenly foreign. In their eyes, he was the storm. I was the street lamp left flickering after the power surge. When the final encore crashed into silence, I slung my guitar over my back and walked straight past the green room. Finley called after me, voice soaked in triumph. I kept walking. Out the loading dock, down an alley where dumpsters perfumed the night with rot, until the din became distant sirens and my pulse found a slower, sadder tempo. ###. 2 weeks later, I officially quit Velvet Echo with a 3-line email. Thank you for the memories. Keep the name, I'll make a new one. I expected backlash, maybe even lawsuit chatter. There were joint ownership clauses on certain songs, but the band's manager wrote a single-sentence reply. Best of luck, Lyra. Translation: without Finley's blessing, I was expendable. My savings evaporated faster than spilled bourbon in July. I pawned a backup amp, downgraded apartments, and took shifts teaching beginner guitar to kids whose hands could barely span 3 frets. At night, I played hole-in-the-wall venues where the bartender doubled as sound tech and the tip jar paid half in drink tokens. Yet every set was mine, and the solo lived at the heart of each performance, unfurling raw and wild, bathed in truths nobody could contest. I experimented. Added loop pedals, layering rhythm taps against my hollow body like heartbeat samples. Wove in field recordings, subway breaks, seagulls over the Thames, distant thundercloud roll, building sonic tapestries too unruly for standard radio. Crowds were small but rapt, the kind that close their eyes and lean forward as though inhaling story. One winter night in Brighton, a storm stranded half the audience before doors opened. 12 people remained. I almost canceled, but the owner begged me on. The till had to ring, so I played. Barefoot on varnished wood, raindrops hammering the roof and uneven percussion, I let the solo grow 8-9 minutes, fingers blistering until the music felt carved from marrow. Someone filmed on their phone. I nodded, thanks afterward, still shaking. I woke next morning to 200 new social media mentions. By noon, it was 20,000. The video, grainy, rain-blurred, had gone viral under the caption, "When the storm hears you, it answers." Music bloggers dissected my technique. Producers sent DMs offering studio time in exchange for credit. Strangers wrote how the crescendo made them pull off the motorway to cry. For the first time since the betrayal, I allowed myself a full-toothed grin. ###. News of Velvet Echo's decline arrived tucked between fan letters. Their debut LP had dropped to tepid reviews. Critics praised Finley's flash, but lamented a missing emotional core. Ticket sales wobbled. Whispers of infighting floated across forums. When a glossy magazine ran an exposé titled, "Can a band survive on ego alone?" I skimmed half the article, then shut my laptop. Schadenfreude felt delicious, but dangerous. I had miles to chase. Spring returned, bringing festival inquiries and a modest record deal that promised creative control. I signed, turned my small flat into a labyrinth of cables and foam panels, and began stitching an entire soundtrack, my soundtrack. 92 minutes of woven riffs, field calls, and orchestrated heartbeats that told a story of loss, hunger, and self-forged flight. I was layering a cello swell beneath the climax when an email popped up from an unfamiliar address. Nind my sign, Shori asterisk, marcus@monarchlive.co.uk, mailto, marcus@monarchlive.co.uk, asterisk. Subject line, reunion show opportunity. I almost deleted it. Spam from talent buyers fishing for cheap openers. But curiosity clicked it open. Greater than hi Lyra, asterisk. Greater than I'm producing Velvet Echo's 10-year reunion concert at the O2 Academy this August. Finley suggested inviting you for, quote, old-time synergy. I think a cameo would thrill Legacy fans. Are you available for a brief guest appearance? Let's discuss terms. Greater than cheers. Greater than Marcus Ashe. Monarch Live events. My throat thickened. A cameo? After everything? I stared at the screen so long the backlight dimmed. I closed the lid without replying. The next day, Marcus called. I let it ring into voicemail. He called again that evening. Third time I picked up, phone cold against my ear. Lyra! His voice crackled with the buzz of a busy production office. Glad I caught you. Look, I'll be blunt. Ticket momentum is slower than projected. The band thinks your presence could reignite hype. We'll cover transport, hotel, and offer a 5-minute solo spot. 5 minutes, I echoed, tasting irony. Plus a joint encore, he added quickly. I pictured Finley basking under spotlights he no longer deserved, tossing me a breadcrumb in front of thousands. Fury flared, but beneath it, a steadier drumbeat. Opportunity. My new soundtrack needed a stage. A reunion audience included press, labels, fans hungry for nostalgia yet ripe for revelation. What if I flipped the script entirely? I appreciate the offer, I said, letting each syllable glide on ice. But I'm not interested in cameos. If you want me, I come as a headliner. Full set. My terms. Silence. Murmurs in the background, papers shuffling. Then Marcus. That's bold. Finley benefits, I interjected. A double bill reunion remix. Old Echo meets new Calder. Think of the narrative. I heard the idea wheel through his mind, gathering momentum. Let me talk to the team. I'll call you tomorrow? Tonight, I said. I need an answer before sunrise. Another pause. All right, tonight. We hung up. I set the phone down, heart sprinting. Headliner. The word shimmered like city skyline at dusk. I walked to the window, pressed my palm to cool glass, and watched lights flick on along rooftops, each one a steady pulse saying, yes, yes, yes. The minutes crawled. Midnight approached. Finally, the screen lit up. Marcus Ashe asterisk calling. I drew a breath, thumb hovering over pulse drumming in triple time. Whatever waited on the other side of that ring could catapult my music into stratospheres, or drag me back into shadows I'd only just escaped. I closed my eyes, felt the weight of my guitar against my spine like a promise, and answered. Marcus? His voice was low, urgent. Lyra, we have a deal, but there's one condition you need to hear before you say yes. My hand tightened around the phone. Outside, dawn's first violet blush crept over the skyline. And that's where everything tipped. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're from. If this story moves you, please subscribe. Tomorrow, I have a special story for you. Tipped. The single syllable echoed in my skull like a plectrum dropped on hardwood, ringing out a warning that balance had shifted, and gravity no longer obeyed the rules I'd rehearsed. Lyra, are you still there? Marcus's voice crackled through the handset, roughened by a night spent arguing across spreadsheets and egos. Behind him, I could make out muffled chatter. Production assistants, volleying gear manifests, someone clacking at a mechanical keyboard, the distant cough of a cappuccino machine trying to stay awake as well. I'm here, I answered, steadying my tone though my pulse slammed whole bar chords against my ribs. I thumbed the condensation on my glass of water. Lukewarm now, forgotten alongside a silent guitar whose strings quivered with sympathetic tension. You mentioned a condition. Marcus exhaled audibly, a sound like tape peeling off a mixing desk. Right. Finley agreed to split the bill, co-headliner status. Your full set. No cuts. In return, he wants one song. Specifically, he wants you to perform the original version of Starfall with the band. No new arrangement, no extended solo. Exactly as it appeared on the first EP. He might as well have asked me to autograph the knife he'd twist into my spine. Starfall was the track that put Velvet Echo on indie radio rotation. 3 minutes 18 seconds of glossy angst built around intertwined guitars, and the vocal harmony that once convinced Finley and me we were unbreakable. But the recording also captured the last moment our artistry felt shared. The song's success fueled his appetite for spotlight, the beginning of the fracture that ended in his theft of my solo. I don't play museum exhibits, I replied after letting silence stretch almost to breaking. My set tells a continuous story. Dropping a frozen snapshot in the middle will snap the spine of the narrative. I tried explaining that, Marcus said quickly. Finley is adamant. He claims fans deserve to hear the song as they remember it. Heat prickled at the back of my neck. He wants to trap me in amber so he can look shiny by comparison. Marcus hesitated. Maybe he just wants nostalgia. Either way, the rest of the terms are generous. Prime slot, full control of visuals, 35% of merch profits on your side. Generous. A decade ago I would have leapt. Now every concession felt like surrendering oxygen. Yet pragmatism whispered, a stadium's worth of ears beats any bar, no matter how devoted the dozen inside. Getting my soundtrack into 5,000 hearts at once, hearts already primed to care, could change everything. I closed my eyes and pictured the O2 Academy's vaulted ceiling, the way applause ricochets in shimmering waves. Could I endure 3 minutes 18 seconds of ornamental exile if it meant unleashing 92 minutes of uncompromised fire afterward? Maybe, but not without leverage. Fine, I said. I'll perform Starfall as is, on one condition of my own. Marcus perked up. Name it. I closed the encore. Final notes of the night belonged to me. That's unorthodox. So was stealing my music. He paused, consulting unheard advisors. Finley won't like it. He doesn't have to like it, he just has to agree. While Marcus deliberated, dawn's first light seeped through my curtains, turning dust motes into slow drifting comets. I realized I'd been pacing. Grooves etched by anxious boots mapped new constellations across the floorboards. 10 minutes later, the decision arrived. Lyra, you drive the encore. A spark caught in my chest. Then we have a show. Hash. Contracts materialized by noon, shuttled via courier, in a rigid portfolio stamped Monarch Live. I read every clause twice, margin-noted ambiguities, then forwarded scans to my lawyer friend Ria, who replied within the hour, terms, lean in your favor. The merch split alone could buy a proper studio. Just watch the technical override section. They retain power to shorten slots if equipment malfunction occurs. Make sure your crew controls your gear. I signed in indigo ink that matched the bruises Finley once called artistic evidence on my forearms after marathon sessions. Evidence, indeed. I intended to present the case in the court of public roar. Hash. 4 weeks to show. Preparation devoured the calendar. My agent booked the industrial loft of a retired textile mill, so the band, assembled from kindred spirits I'd met during my viral video ascent, could rehearse at stadium volume without noise complaints. Cora on drums, whose polyrhythms could make thunder jealous, Jax on bass, gliding through fretless landscapes, and twin cellists Rafa and Niam, bowing dark rivers beneath my guitar's starlight. We christened ourselves Lyra Calder and the Gravitones Asterisk because every rehearsal bent time. Day 1, we built the set in sequence. Delicate opener Emberwake, blooming into glitch-beat march, late-hour algebra, then the full spine of my 92-minute soundtrack, an experience arc designed to shepherd listeners from heartbreak's ashes into phoenix flight. At each juncture, the 7-minute solo, now titled Aphelion, served as gravitational slingshot, hurling the audience toward the final crescendo. I refused to let nostalgia dilute that journey. So we designed the transition into Starfall as a deliberate act. House lights down to nearly nothing. Stage washed in a single overhead spot that would replicate the cramped basement where the song was born. The backing band would retreat to shadow while Finley joined me center stage. We would play the song exactly like the recording. No embellishment, no modern flourishes. After the last chord decayed, I would raise a hand, invite gravitones back, and launch directly into Aphelion, a living contrast between memory and metamorphosis. Cora caught the symbolism first. During a break, she tapped her sticks against a water bottle. It's like showing them the caterpillar before unfurling the wings. Or revealing the ghost before the exorcism, Jax quipped. Either way, the narrative track felt solid, but logistics threatened collapse daily. One morning, the sprinkler system spontaneously activated, drenching cables and warping sheet music. Rafa rescued his carbon fiber cello. Niam's antique maple instrument suffered a hairline crack that luthiers scrambled to repair. 2 days later, a delivery truck sideswiped our rented backline van, delaying pedalboard repairs. Cora joked we'd angered a poltergeist. I wondered if Velvet Echo's camp played dirty. Paranoia tasted acrid until Rhea reminded me. Never attribute to conspiracy what can be blamed on British weather and London traffic. ###. Timer 2 weeks to show. The first joint rehearsal with Velvet Echo took place in a converted aircraft hangar outside Reading, neutral ground large enough to house both rigs. Finley arrived late wearing aviator shades inside the tin cavern, entourage orbiting him like satellites hungry for reflected light. His grin stretched taut when he saw my expanded ensemble. "Looks like you found an orchestra," he said, voice syrupy yet edged. "Looks like you're still outsourcing charisma," I replied, glancing at the cameras following him. He removed the shades, revealing eyes I once knew how to read. Now they startled me with vacancy, either haunted by sleepless ambition or numbed by something pharmaceutical. We ran the set tops and tails to test transitions. Starfall slotted in like a preserved insect between glass plates, vibrant yet immobile. Finley played every note with surgical precision, head bobbing in practice nostalgia, but his phrasing lacked the reckless wonder that once made crowds believe meteors could love them back. When my band re-entered for Aphelion, the contrast was nuclear. Cellos thundered, percussion cracked storms, and my Strat sang with a rage-forged joy that turned Finley's silver jacket into tinfoil. At the final sustain, Finley muttered something to his tech. The next run-through, his amp's volume mysteriously jumped mid-song, scattering our in-ear balance. Cora snapped fingers for a halt. "Power surge," Finley shrugged. "Odd how the surge obeyed your solo," I replied. Marcus intervened, promising stricter line checks. I made discreet arrangements for a signal backup, a direct inject feed to the desk that only my engineer Marlowe could patch live if amps failed. Redundancy grew into religion. ###. Night or show week. Press commitments layered themselves like brick dust in the lungs. Morning radio segments, afternoon podcast interviews, evening live stream Q&As. Every host wanted the drama angle. How does it feel to reunite? I gave measured answers, focus on music, gratitude for fans, while Finley leaned into reconciliation narratives, painting himself benevolent. Social media speculated on surprise collaborations, secret tracks, maybe even a full Velvet Echo reunion. I let rumors circulate unsupervised, trusting that truth would hit harder than any teaser. Back at rehearsal, Jax suggested an audacious technical flourish. In the precise micropause after Starfall, before lights ramped, he'd trigger a low-frequency oscillator through the subs, felt, not heard, like the moment a spacecraft shreds atmosphere. It would prime the audience's chest cavities for liftoff into Aphelion. We tested at half volume. Water bottles rippled on the stage floor. Approval granted. Hash hash hash. Chom and Mindwing, shock sound, dash check. O2 Academy, day of show. The hall smelled faintly of lemon cleanser and lingering popcorn. Rows of seats stretched into darkness where riggers adjusted trusses. I walked the lip of the stage, boots brushing confetti residue from last night's EDM blowout, and inhaled the potential humming in every cable coil. During line check, Finley's guitar sent piercing feedback spikes across monitors. His tech apologized profusely. Marlowe watched impassively, clipboard notes in shorthand. The spikes ceased after we insisted on swapping a suspect cable. Lighting cues ran flawlessly, starfall under single spotlight, cellos rejoin in ghostly sidelight, then full chroma bloom at the downbeat of Aphelion. The photographer captured a still of me silhouetted against the ascending rainbow. One day, the poster children would pin that on dorm walls. Backstage dressing rooms sat at opposite ends of a long corridor, good fences. My room smelled of sandalwood candle and fresh tea. Hospitality writers do wonders these days. Overhead, I taped a printed mantra. Play like meteors are listening. Below it lay the Strat, strings stretched new that morning but already seasoned by run-through sweats. A knock. Marcus entered, headset askew, clipboard in hand. House opens in 30. Ticket scan lines wrapped the block twice. Let them in, we'll warm them. About that, he said, voice dropping. Finley wants to tweak set order slightly, move Starfall later, so his solo lands closer to Encore. I felt the ground pitch. We agreed placement. He argues energy arc. I shook my head. Non-negotiable. The narrative thread relies on the juxtaposition. Tell him shifting even one bar voids my performance clause. Marcus swallowed, nodded, and retreated. Hash hash hash. Night 1 breathe in 1 bar 4 then 1 bar 4 then 1 bar. Curtain time. House lights dim to a hush that vibrated bones. Finley's set opened with their latest single, slick choreography, LED screens fracturing neon patterns. The crowd roared politely, but I sensed a gap between eyes and hearts. I watched from stage left, instrument strapped, my own crew crouched in shadows. Second song, Finley missed a pick sweep. Sweat pinpricked his brow. Third song, his mic stand loosened mid-verse, lurching like a drunk mast. He recovered with a grin, but the veneer fissured. By the time he announced, "Please welcome my dear friend Lyra Calder," I stepped into a spotlight that felt less invitation, more invocation. The first chord of Starfall rang clean as cathedral glass. Finn's part arpeggiated beneath my vocals, muscle memory guiding chords older than our feud. For 3 minutes, 18 seconds, we inhabited the ghost of something once holy. My voice cracked only once on the bridge, heart flickering at the déjà vu of harmonies now hollow. The final E major shimmered longer than rehearsed, dying like a shooting star that refuses gravity. Applause erupted, mixed with an undercurrent of expectation. The audience sensed a pivot. House lights dropped to black. Jacks triggered the subquake. A low thrum licked ankles, climbing spines. At 0 count, lights exploded into prismatic sunrise, and a quote, Aphelion ignited. I hit the first bend so hard my knuckles whitened. Cellos thundered in 5/4 counter rhythm. Cora's kick drum mapped constellations. The solo, my solo, arced like molten steel poured across sky. I walked the edge of feedback, teased chaos, then resolved into a melody that felt like forgiveness punched through with ferocity. The crowd surged, phone lights blooming like a galaxy. For 7 minutes I conducted gravity. When the last harmonic faded, thunderous cheers barreled against the rafters. I turned, sweating, lungs ablaze, and saw Finley at upstage right, jaw slack. He raised his guitar as if to answer, but the moment belonged elsewhere. We continued into the soundtrack's swelling middle acts, cinematic climbs and whispered lulls. Each transition hammered home that destiny had rescored itself. By the penultimate song, audience members chanted my name alone. Backstage monitors showed Finley pacing. During our final pre-encore number, a stage manager whispered that he planned to cut into the encore with an unscheduled medley. My stomach chilled. Technical override clause. If he forced a malfunction, they could shrink my closing time. I thanked the crowd, promised one more piece, and strode off stage. Finley blocked the corridor, sweat darkening his silver jacket to gunmetal. "Hell of a show," he said, voice clipped. "But you're overrunning. Contract grants me 12 encore minutes. We're on schedule." He stepped closer. "My fans came for Velvet Echo history, not your experimental opus." "Funny. Sounds like they decided otherwise." His eyes flashed. "Then give them the history they want." He lifted a hand, revealing a set list crumpled in his fist. My name was crossed out beside the encore. Marlowe appeared at my shoulder, silent sentinel. Finley's tech emerged behind him. 2 crews, 2 agendas. "I'm walking on," I said, sliding my in-ears back. "Try and stop me. You'll breach safety protocol." Finley's lips curled, but he stepped aside just enough. I brushed past, feeling the tremor of his fury like static. Hash, hash, hash. The encore began under blood-red strobes. My fingers introduced a delicate motif until the main stage wedge monitors cut out. I could hear only faint reflections from the hall. A weaponized malfunction. Audience noise swelled, confused. Without hesitation, Marlowe enacted Plan Beta, a separate monitor mix piped through side fills and my wireless pack, bypassing the wedges. Sound returned to me like breath revived. I signaled Cora. She counted in a fill that re-anchored the crowd. Phones rose, cheers intensified. We pushed on. Mid-solo, the LED backdrop flickered, then blacked out entirely, robbing Finley's crew of camera-fed visual spectacle. House techs scrambled. My team rode the chaos, lowering front-of-house lights to intimate pools that made every face visible. Intimacy trumped spectacle. Final chorus. I climbed a stack near stage lip, balanced on wedge housing, and let the last note sustain into screaming feedback, which I tamed with volume pot finesse until it became a heartbeat. Then silence. Total, pregnant, electric. Applause detonated, tsunami loud. I bowed once, twice, then spoke. "Thank you for believing a song doesn't end where someone else stops listening. You make..." My voice broke. I swallowed. "You make stardust sing." House lights burst to full. I glimpsed Finley in the wings, face mapped with shadows of disbelief. I should have basked in victory. Instead, my stomach twisted, because behind him, Marcus sprinted down the corridor waving a clipboard, terror carved into his features. Something was very, very wrong. As I stepped off the stage, he skidded to a halt. "Lyra," he gasped, voice ragged. "Emergency shutdown. The city council just revoked the event permit. There's been a structural alert on the south balcony. We need to evacuate the entire hall now." Before I could process, a distant crack sounded overhead, metal surrendering under strain, followed by a chorus of screams. The ceiling truss directly above the south seating section began to sag. I felt time slow, every heartbeat thick molasses. Crowds surged toward exits, but traffic bottlenecked near merchandise stalls. Security radios shouted conflicting orders. Finley's face drained white. My band instinctively clustered, searching for gear, for friends. Marcus grabbed my arm. "Leave it! Get out!" But 2,000 souls were funneling beneath tonnage of steel lighting rigs. And I knew, too late, that tonight's narrative still had one impossible solo yet to play. The truss groaned, a dying giant, bolts sheared with gunshot pops. I broke free of Marcus's grip and sprinted toward the collapsing section, screams roaring in my ears. Above me, the roof began to fall like a colossal, rusted guillotine. And that's exactly when the house lights died a second time, plunging everything into black. Chaos detonated the instant the lights vanished. People screamed, first in surprise, then in primal dread as they sensed the vast ceiling above them crack and groan. For an impossibly long heartbeat, everything was sound with no image. The metallic shriek of bending steel, frantic breaths, the staccato rattle of folding chairs kicked aside. Then handheld screens bloomed like trapped fireflies, casting ragged cones of blue-white over faces frozen in terror. I was already moving. Instinct overriding thought. The low-frequency vibrations from Jax's oscillator still quivered in my diaphragm, but I forced my lungs to work. My night vision picked out the silhouette of a toppled lighting tower, leaning at a 40-degree angle over row J. A second ago, it had been anchored to the sagging truss above. Now its cables lashed wildly, sparks snapping where insulation sheared. "Cora, kill the subs," I yelled. I couldn't see her, but I knew she'd hear. The in-ears still fed us an emergency comm line powered by an independent battery. A click and the subterranean thrums ceased, giving the air a microsecond of false calm. Emergency strobes along the aisles stuttered to life. Their pulses revealed the south balcony descending in a nightmare slow-motion ripple, support joints buckling like cardboard. Splinters of plaster rained down. Somewhere a child sobbed. To my left, Rafa dropped his cello, sprang over a row, and scooped a teenager out from under a swinging speaker cluster. "Stage left exit!" Security staff shouted, brandishing mag lights. But the closest doors were under the balcony's shadow, currently a death zone. We needed a new vector. "North concourse!" I bellowed through the comm, hoping at least my band would relay. I vaulted onto a stack of subwoofers, nearly slipping on the slick Tolex, and raised my phone flashlight high. Phones nearby tilted toward me, converting my small beacon into a constellation. "Follow the light," I shouted, voice rough. "Everyone, keep low, keep moving!" Crowd currents shifted. Panic still churned, but direction is antidote to stampede. People angled toward me, then beyond to the better-lit northern tunnel that led to street-level loading docks. A new snap split the dark, sheer tensile failure. The main truss's midpoint gave way with a sound like an ancient tree tearing free. I flung myself sideways as a 3-meter aluminum spar speared the spot I'd stood. It clanged off the woofer stack, ricocheted, and smashed into the apron rail where Finley's pedalboard still sat, gutting cables. Sparks blossomed. Smoke, acrid, electrical, poured upward. Sprinklers hissed awake, releasing freezing needles that turned haze into opaque fog under strobe bursts. Somewhere behind the curtain, Finley shouted orders, voice rich with fear and fury. I couldn't make out words over alarms now blaring, but his tone told enough. He wasn't in control. Hash hash hash. Asterisk asterisk 3 minutes since blackout. Outside sirens wailed closer. The London Fire Brigade, maybe even disaster response units. Good. But 3 minutes is a lifetime beneath a collapsing roof. I spotted a bottleneck at the merch foyer, where decorative scaffold arches created choke points. I sprinted, boots slipping on puddles, and nearly crashed into a knot of fans clutching posters and tour shirts like life preservers. "Drop everything," I urged. "Hands free, move." I used my guitar, still strapped but unplugged, to gently herd them. One woman's eyes widened at the sight of the Strat. "It's just wood and wire," I said, "but you're flesh and blood. Go!" They scattered toward daylight spilling from a half-raised cargo door beyond the foyer. A breeze crisp with night air and diesel exhaust kissed my drenched hair. "Progress." I turned back. Finley's silhouette staggered through mist, coughing. He clutched a flight case by one handle, dragging it like wounded cargo. Even in crisis, the man tried to save gear before souls. "Forget it," I called. "Help the crowd." He ignored me, yanking the case across a fallen truss strut. The lid burst, disgorging a tangle of custom effect pedals, limited edition boutique boxes he'd bragged about. They skittered into a puddle, instantly shorting. Tiny sparks fizzed like dying fireflies. Finley stared, stunned, as if the building had murdered his children. Then he whirled, accusatory. "Your sub-bass did this!" he screamed over the cacophony. "You shook the ceiling loose!" I opened my mouth to retort, but another sound overrode words. A groan from above, followed by a seismic crunch. We both looked up. A chunk of roof panel the size of a hatchback sheared free, tumbling in 6 succession of flips. Finley froze. I tackled him. momentum knocking us both into a service alcove just as the slab crashed where he'd stood. Dust and shards exploded outward, peppering my back. My shoulder barked pain. His elbow stabbed my ribs as we fell. For a half-second, the world was muffled dust. Then I heard him gasping under me. I rolled aside, spat grit, hauled him to his feet. "Move!" I pushed him toward the northern concourse, where evacuees still streamed. "But the guitars!" "They don't breathe!" I snapped. We ran, water hammered from sprinklers, smoke coiled around ankles. Emergency strobes now pulsed red, turning every face demonic. Yet line by line, the hall emptied. I spotted Jax at the cargo door, directing traffic with broad arm sweeps, voice booming calm instructions. Cora teetered on a toppled barrier, guiding cough-racked fans with her drumsticks held high like semaphore. Finally, the only people visible were staff in high-vis vests doing final sweeps. I staggered toward Jax. "All clear at South?" I asked. "2 ushers checking dressing rooms," Jax replied, soaked curls plastered to scalp. "They'll radio when out." A deafening metallic shriek, longer, lower than before, reverberated through the shell. The entire lattice where the central truss once anchored began sagging as secondary supports surrendered. "Out now!" shouted a firefighter who'd just ducked under the half-open cargo door. I didn't argue. We burst into the loading bay under floodlights. Cold air slapped lungs, carrying the chemical tang of smoke and the coppery scent of stress sweat. Beyond security cordons, hundreds of evacuees milled on the street, some wrapped in mylar blankets handed out by medics. Blue strobes from emergency vehicles painted everything in surreal pulses. I scanned for injuries. Paramedics treated sprains, lacerations, inhalation distress. Remarkably, no stretchers bore critical trauma. Luck, design, or guardian angels. Maybe all three. A final muffled roar sounded from inside. The balcony's full collapse, judged by the dust plume exiting roof vents. Lights within flickered, then died entirely. The O2 Academy was officially dark. ****. 30 minutes post-evacuation Tummerv Damas. Wrapped in a thermal blanket, I debriefed with Captain Adler of the London Fire Brigade. She was lean, eyes clear behind soot-specked goggles. "We'll need formal statements," she said, scribbling notes. "Initial inspection suggests multiple compromised welds on the south truss. Could be age, improper load, or tampering." "Tampering?" I repeated, glancing toward Finley seated on an ambulance bumper, oxygen mask pressed to face. He looked small without arena lights. Diminished. Adler shrugged. "Too early. Building engineers will know." Marlowe approached, phone outstretched. "You need to see this." On screen, a viral clip already trending, fan-shot footage of the collapse framed against Ophelion's climax. Posters overlaid text. Asterisk, sub-bass causes stage disaster? Asterisk, comment sections erupted with theories pinning blame on my oscillator pulse. "Finley's PR is feeding it," Marlowe said. "They're already talking morning news exclusives." Ice water trickled through my veins. Minutes ago, I was hero shepherding evacuees. Now headlines cast me as architect of calamity. Rhea, my lawyer, arrived in a cab, still buttoning her coat. She took one look at my face and said, "We need to control narrative before sunrise." ****. Asterisk, 2:10 a.m., Twentine said. Police escorted a structural engineer, Dr. Celeste Coro, into the cordoned area. Hard hat, clipboard, stride like a metronome, she eyed the damaged hall, then the puddles where truss pieces had been laid out for examination. I introduced myself. She nodded, expression taut with purpose. "I'm scanning fracture surfaces. Early signs show fast fatigue cracks, propagated deliberately by removing secondary bolts. Base vibrations don't unscrew bolts." Relief warred with dread. Proof of sabotage would vindicate me but invite deeper malice. "Can we publicize your findings?" I asked. "Not yet. Need lab results. But I can say the collapse timeline is inconsistent with single event resonance failure." Tech speak for asterisk, "Not your fault." I exhaled. Hash hash hash. Asterisk, asterisk 4 a.m. Temporary headquarters, hotel conference room. Monarch Live commandeered a hotel ballroom to triage logistics. Management teams, lawyers, insurers, and city council liaisons clustered at tables piled with laptops. A wall-sized projection displayed social media sentiment graphs sliding from outrage to confusion. Marcus, voice ragged, addressed both camps. Council revoked our license for tomorrow's second show. They may ban future Monarch events pending investigation. Finley, now in fresh clothes but still pallid, slammed a fist. So the biggest reunion gig in UK indie history dies because some experimental vanity project rattled screws loose? I shot up. Say that again. He held my gaze. You turned the venue into a speaker cabinet, you and your overblown band. You hung illegal extra fixtures on that truss for your new light show. I threw a folder onto the table. Security photos Marlowe's assistant had snapped earlier, showing Finley's custom gobo rig clamped to south balcony rails. Finley's jaw flexed. My crew secure tested those rigs. Dr. Okoro cleared her throat from the doorway. Except they replaced grade 8 bolts with hollow aluminum to shave load. Those bolts sheared first. She laid X-ray images on the table. The exposed threads looked chewed. A hush fell. Finley's lips parted, closed. His tech, pale, shaking, blurted. We had to lighten the assembly after last-minute fixture additions. The weight spec. Finley cut him off with a death glare, but the damage was done. Monitors switched to a zoomed image of the hollow bolts. Game over. Council Representative Ms. Llewellyn spoke next, Welsh lilt razor-sharp. Given preliminary evidence of unauthorized modifications, liability may fall on Velvet Echo Limited. However, the sub-base element likely exacerbated structural resonance. We need independent dynamic load modeling. Rhea folded her arms. Fair, but until then we request public statement clarifying ongoing investigation so Ms. Calder's brand isn't crucified by conjecture. Negotiations spiraled into dawn. By 7 a.m., an interim press release emerged. Cause under investigation, no fatalities, praise for swift evacuation led by performers. Still, ticket holders mourned the cancelled show. Refunds threatened to bankrupt Monarch and scorch my ascent. Hash hash hash. Kamek nop time sove. Time sove aftershock. We relocated to my tiny studio flat by the Thames because hotels reeked of crisis meetings. The gravitones crashed on air mattresses between mic stands. Sunlight painted weary faces. I can't let the tour end here, I said. Fans flew from half the world. Jax, scrolling, looked up. Battersea Power Station's outdoor courtyard sits empty next Saturday. All-night Arts Fest pulled out. Capacity 5,000. Chorus snorted. After tonight's fiasco, which council signs off an open-air show? Quote, maybe one who sees it's a charity benefit, Rafa offered, gingerly flexing bruised forearm. Proceeds to injured fans? I smiled. Yes, we turn catastrophe into compassion. Marlowe started drafting proposals. Rhea dialed licenses. Social channels lit with the hashtag. Hashtag #StarfallRise ***. Fans posting gratitude for rescue efforts. Lobbying for a make-good gig. Momentum surged. Love outran fear. But the opposing narrative grew too. Finley's team leaked rehearsal footage of our oscillator tests, overlaying catastrophe headlines. Tabloids printed split-screen images. Roof wreckage beside my face mid-solo, mouth open like banshee. They christened me the Siren of Collapse. Hash, hash, hash. Asterisk, asterisk. 48 hours later, BBC breakfast interview. Finley sat on a plush couch, hair artfully tousled, silver jacket replaced by somber charcoal blazer. He spoke sorrowfully about, quote, the moment I felt my partnership betrayed me, alleging I refused volume moderation requests. The presenter played slowed audio of the sub-bass pulse. Viewers heard ominous rumble, saw roof fall in time-stamped overlay. Finley's crocodile tears glistened. Hashtag sentiment dipped. Supporters messaged me, "Say something," but Ria insisted we wait for the engineer's official statement. Croyd was Broad, Day 3. Police summons. Detective Inspector Harita Singh rang at 22:15 while I rehearsed Unplugged-in candlelight. "Miss Calder, we'd like you to come in tomorrow morning for formal interview regarding safety compliance. Voluntary at this stage." Her tone suggested niyat. I agreed, ended call, and stared at the river's black glass through my window. My reflection looked like a stranger wearing exhaustion. Behind me, the band quieted. "Interrogation?" Cora asked. "Routine," I forced a smile. "We'll clear things." But doubt nibbled like piranhas. What if the oscillator indeed tipped marginal structures over the edge? What if I'd weaponized art into danger? Sleep evaded. At 3 a.m. I stood on the damp balcony, city lights shimmering. A gust rustled sheet music pegged to the railing. Phone vibrated. An unknown number. Against better judgment, I answered. A familiar voice whispered, saturated with static and guilt. "Lyra, they're coming after both of us. We need to meet, alone, before lawyers poison the well." It was Finley. "Why should I trust you now?" I hissed. "Because whoever sabotaged that truss wasn't my crew or yours." His words tumbled urgent. "I have proof. Security footage. Someone else was on the catwalk the night before." My heart slammed. "Then give it to the police." "They'll bury it to shield insurance liabilities. Meet me at the old rehearsal warehouse, 5 a.m. Bring no one." Or the truth collapses like that roof, and we both go down with it." Line clicked dead. I stared at the silent phone, thumb hovering over callback. Inside, dawn's first gray seeped through curtains. If Finley lied, I'd walk into a trap with police already circling. If he spoke truth, ignoring him could doom us. I pocketed the phone, grabbed my leather jacket, and slipped through sleeping bandmates. On the landing, I hesitated, looking back at their breathing forms, family forged in frequencies. Then I descended stairs, into pre-dawn hush, each footstep echoing choices I couldn't rewind. Outside, the street lamps flickered, one by one, as London prepared to wake, or witness another collapse. I exhaled mist and started toward the warehouse, unaware that less than an hour later, a citywide Amber Alert would ping every phone with my name attached. That chime sounded behind me in the dim alley as a black van rolled up, side door sliding open with a hiss of pneumatics. And I realized too late it wasn't Finley inside. I didn't even have time to scream. Hands, two pairs, rough, impatient, yanked me into the van's cavernous dark. The sliding door slammed, snuffing street lamp glow. Tires chirped on wet asphalt. Acceleration pinned me to the ribbed metal floor. A burlap hood dropped over my head, smelling of diesel and old onions. Someone cinched cable ties around my wrists and ankles in practiced motions. The van's interior smelled of cold steel and adrenaline. My heart slammed double kicks against my sternum. Instinct said fight. But wrists bound, legs tied, darkness absolute. I forced breath steadier. Inhale 4, hold 4, exhale 4, claiming just enough oxygen to keep panic from detonating rationale. Voices murmured over the engine's drone. 3, maybe 4 people. 1 female, clipped accent, estuary English. 2 male, deeper. 1 wheezed like a smoker. They spoke in half-coded shorthand. Package acquired. ETA 20. Check for trackers. Rough hands patted my pockets. My phone, ID, pics, even the spare hex key I keep for emergency truss adjustments. Gone. They missed the micro recorder sewn into my jacket lining, a trick Ria insisted on after the collapse. It activated automatically at loud noise thresholds. I prayed solder joints held as the van rattled. Hash. I counted turns. Left, right, roundabout, straight for long stretch, converting approximate speed into distance like we'd practiced during tour bus boredom. Maybe southwark, then toward Docklands. Hard to parse under fear's static. Rain-peppered roof panels, wipers sloshed. At minute 20, brakes squealed. Van rolled over gravel, stopped. Doors slid open. Icy air bit my soaked jeans. Hands pulled me out, feet scraping ground. The crunch under boots told of broken glass or shelled aggregate. Hood yanked off. Spotlights ringed a gutted warehouse. Windows smashed, roof beams silhouetted against low clouds. Red graffiti declared, "Keep out asbestos risk." The Thames shimmered dimly beyond a chain-link fence, some forgotten spur of docklands. A woman in a high-vis vest stepped forward, black bob haircut plastered by drizzle. She scanned me top to toe like evaluating livestock. "Lyra Calder," she said, "quite the headline act." I tested my voice, hoarse. "Mistaken booking. My rider clearly states no asbestos." Smoker voice thug grunted amusement, cuffed the back of my head. "Smart mouth." Bob hair ignored him. "Search her again. She's clever." They did, rougher. Recorder survived. They missed the seam. Small mercies. "Inside," Bob ordered. Hash, hash, hash. The warehouse interior sprawled like an aircraft hangar stripped bare. Rusting cranes, dank puddles, mountains of shipping crates. A portable halogen tower cast surgical light onto a hasty command center. Folding tables, laptops, radio scanners, a 3D printed scale model of the O2 truss assembly. My stomach twisted. Whoever these people were, they studied structural sabotage intimately. A second prisoner slumped against a crate, wrists cable-tied like mine. Finley. Hair matted, temple bruised. His eyes widened as they dragged me over. "You too?" he croaked. "Thought you ordered the Uber," I muttered. Bob hair clapped sarcasm from the air. "Reunited already. Sweet." She stepped closer, revealed a laminated badge clipped beneath vest. Days LLE, WELYN. City Events Compliance *. The council representative who'd grilled us after collapse. "Council kidnapping artists?" I challenged. She laughed, an unmusical bark. "Council cleans messes the public mustn't see." You two threaten decades of investment. Buildings across London use similar imported truss kits. If your narrative of faulty bolts sticks, lawsuits cripple venues. So the story will be resonance failure, your sub-bass and ego duel. Finley rasped, "We have evidence." "Not after tonight," Llewellyn replied. She nodded. Thugs started sifting through a pile of confiscated gear. Phones, SD cards. I spoke louder. "Killing us won't silence truth." Band, press, engineer. Too many eyes. "Who said anything about killing?" Llewellyn's gaze held frigid delight. "You'll release a joint statement absolving the city. Admit to negligent staging and creative rivalry. Then you'll disappear to rehab for exhaustion. Come back in a year for a redemption tour." She produced 2 stapled documents, tossed them at our feet. Headlines: Numbered Statement of Liability and Non-Litigation Agreement. Spaces for signatures. Finley spat. "You expect compliance?" "Expect? No." She unholstered a taser. Blue arc crackled. "I calculate probability." Pain is persuasive. Electric agony carved my spine when electrodes bit. I writhed, screaming through clenched teeth. Finley's turn followed. He convulsed, eyes rolling. Between torture rounds, Llewellyn detailed the alternative. Indefinite, quarantine branded as mental health retreat, staged evidence of self-harm, career annihilation. The thugs recorded our video confession attempts. Us gasping, incoherent. Hash, hash, hash. Hours blurred. Cold seeped marrow deep, cable ties cut skin. Adrenaline eventually burned to ember, leaving clarity. I recalled every disaster prep lecture from tour managers. Maintain humanity, create connection, exploit captor hubris. During a lull, Smoker Thug lit a cigarette near flammable crates labeled audio foam. I wheezed, "Got a light for me?" He chuckled. His nicotine brain needed audience. I let sarcasm drip bittersweet until he offered drag through clenched hands, mask of camaraderie. While he brandished lighter, I angled wrists toward flame, quick flick through melting plastic, Searing pain but ties weakened. I twisted, snapping bond. My freed hand grabbed his lit cigarette, jammed ember into his bare neck. He screamed. I lunged, tackling him. The other thug spun, raising baton. Finley, still half-bound, threw himself sideways, tripping attacker. Baton clattered. I seized it, swung into thug's kneecap. Crunch. He collapsed. Taser clicks. Llewellyn advanced. I hurled baton. She ducked but lost aim. Finley, wrists now loose courtesy of jagged crate edge, charged, slamming her into table. Laptop skidded off, shattering. Radio scanner flipped, emitting static. I grabbed flying laptop. Hard drive possibly contains incriminating truss model data, and stuffed into guitar strap satchel still slung across my torso. We bolted. Hash. Warehouse second-level catwalks led to roof hatch. Feet pounded iron grating echoing gunfire. Below, Llewellyn's curses mixed with security radio calls. Targets heading north mezzanine. Seal perimeters. Red emergency beacons activated as they hunted. Finley and I reached hatch padlocked. He produced nothing. I pulled in-ear monitor's metal clip, jammed into lock shackle gap, twisted until brittle aluminum pin gave, door clanged open. We scrambled onto tar paper roof slick with rain. No safe descent. 30-foot drop to dumpsters. River on 3 sides. Searchlights sweeping from returning police boats. They'd traced Amber Alert ping. Good. But we were still suspects. Helicopter chop approached. News chopper, maybe. I scanned. Roof's east edge had rusted fire escape half collapsed. West had materials hoist bridge leading to adjacent crane arm extended over barge moored below. Finley wheezed. Your call. I chose crane. We sprinted across swaying girder to operator cab perched 40 feet above deck. Wind whipped. Rain stung cheeks. Sirens crescendoed street side. Llewellyn's men on roof opened taser-mounted flashlights. I ducked into cab, yanked lever, miracle. The crane still had battery backup. Boom rotated with tortured moan, swinging us above Thames. Finley shrieked, clung to railing. Jump on 3, I shouted. Bargemen below ran for cover. 3! I leapt, arms windmilling. Splash cold as outer space swallowed every sense. River current seized limbs. Cuffs slithered from ankles. Lungs screamed. Surface gasp. Dark waves slapped. Finley surfaced yards away, sputtering. Spotlights chased but crane obstructed line of sight. We kicked for barge's hull, grasped rope ladder, hauled onto deck trembling. Bargeman, a gray-bearded Scot, brandished wrench. I flashed wristbands. Abducted. Call police. He stared, recognized faces from tabloids, grunted, pulled burner phone, dialed. Hash. Police launch arrived within 6 minutes, floodlights blinding. We surrendered, hands visible. Detectives cuffed us gently. Protocol, wrapped blankets. Llewellyn nowhere in sight. Warehouse swarmed by flashing blue. Hash. Kaikadabul Sunrise. Southwark Police Marine Unit. HQ Nikadabul Sunrise. Interrogation room smelled of disinfectant and instant coffee. De-icing entered, file bulging. She regarded us across table. Quite an evening, she said. Kidnapping, assault, trespass, property damage, unlicensed crane operation. Finley snorted, winced at bruised ribs. Singh raised palm. However, forensics at warehouse recovered hollow bolts identical to collapse site plus laptop with city compliance schematics. Ms. Llewellyn is in custody, claiming entrapment. Your recorder captured extortion threats. Admissible evidence. I exhaled gratitude. Singh continued. You two are material witnesses. Press conference at noon. Will exonerate your acts regarding O2. Bass oscillator cleared. Sabotage confirmed. You're free pending statement. Relief crashed so hard I nearly sobbed. Hash. Nastizen noon. Steps of New Scotland Yard. Cameras flanked barricades. Flashbulbs staccato. Singh addressed press. Dr. Okoro outlined sabotage, naming Llewellyn part of larger corruption ring, covering unsafe metal imports. Finley and I stood side by side, microphones hungry. Reporters lobbed questions. I spoke first. Music should shake souls, not ceilings. We owe truth to every fan. Safety must never bow to profit. Finley added, voice raw, we were rivals. Tonight we were survivors. That matters more. Flashbulbs popped like fireworks. Supportive hashtags reignited. Hashtag Starfall Justice trending worldwide. ###. Tulid evening band flat. Reunion of Gravitones and Velvet Echo minus corrupt tech. Apologies exchanged, tentative smiles. Cora perched on amp. So about that benefit show? I met Finley's gaze. Co-headline? He nodded slowly. This time we share the last chord. Battersea Power Station courtyard secured for Saturday. Permits fast-tracked under Mayor's directive, honor resilience, raise funds for structural safety initiative across UK venues. Rehearsals resumed next morning. River breeze mixing with martial cab growl across open courtyard. ###. Doors and Corey's name Saturday 1845. Benefit show. The sun melted into copper over chimneys. A crowd of 6,000 filled plaza. Proceeds already topping target donations. Giant banners read, Build It Right. Backstage, Finley approached, extending battered silver pedal he salvaged. Overdrive still works, he said. Maybe it belongs under your foot tonight. I weighed it. Scarred, scarlet LED still glowing, poetic. I slotted it last in my chain. Show opened with Velvet Echo's gutsy anthem, fans roaring. We segued into Gravitone's atmospheric build. Energy flowed seamless. At midpoint, we performed newly arranged Starfall Rise, dual solo trade-offs, cello counterpoint. Aphelion soared above turbine towers under laser constellation. Every note tasted of absolution. Yet as final chord shimmered, a sudden hush fell, monitors cut, déjà vu prickled skin. But this time not sabotage, the entire city grid flickered. Across the river, lights and high-rises winked out like doused candles. A rolling blackout. Gasps rippled, power amps silent but microphones dead, crowd murmured. I glanced skyward. Aurora like ribbons of green dancing, rare geomagnetic storm? Phones glowed confusion. Then every handset simultaneously chimed, the emergency alert tone that once bore my name. Screens flashed red banner, Terrace National Grid failure, seek shelter, further instructions to follow. Tempest of whispers brewed. I looked at Finley, he looked at me, our faces lit by thousands of screens. We had instruments, unamplified but alive. Cora twirled brushes, tapping snares softly. Cellists drew bows, crowd quieted. I strummed an acoustic intro, unplugged yet audible in pin-drop hush. Voices joined humming. 6,000 humans became our amplifier. But behind chimney stacks, horizon pulsed eerie electric blue. Transformers blowing? Something bigger. Police radios crackled urgent. Stage manager ran up, whispering, Grid may cascade continent-wide. Trains stalled. Need to convert venue into refuge hub. I nodded, stepped to mic that no longer worked, and projected, Nobody panic. We have light. We have song. The crowd cheered, fragile but present. Then sirens howled from every street, and the blue flash brightened into colossal bloom. Finley whispered, What now? I tightened guitar strap. Now the real encore begins. And as the sky split, we struck the first chord of resilience, unamplified yet thunderous. While somewhere above the chimneys, a wave of electromagnetic fire raced toward us. It swallowed the sky. A coruscating ribbon of turquoise and violet speared overhead, ripping across cloud cover as though some cosmic god had taken a palette knife to the night. The chimneys of Battersea Power Station, once stoic white pillars, glowed eerie green under the aurora bright flare. Every phone died in hands mid-scroll. The LED screens winked to black in synchronized surrender. Generators coughed. Stage floodlights sputtered twice, then fell permanently dark. For 1 second, the courtyard was silent but for the wind. 6,000 breaths caught at the same time, until someone screamed, a high, keening wail that triggered the self-defense reflex of the entire crowd. Fear poured out in a wave heavier than any sub-bass I'd ever conjured. "Stay calm," I shouted, but unamplified again, my words barely carried to the barricade. Cora tapped cymbal edges with brushes, coaxing a gentle rainfall rhythm, a heartbeat outside our bodies. Jack slid into a soft bass line, fingers gliding without amp support, his acoustic strings humming only on the front row's air. The cellists answered, bows whispering long, mournful notes. The music steadied knees. Even in disaster's jaws, we could give them rhythm to stand on. Finley approached, eyes reflecting emerald sky glow. "Grids fried. EMP, maybe?" EMP, electromagnetic pulse. That would explain simultaneous blackout of electronics. I remembered news articles months ago about heightened solar activity, but this felt engineered, not natural, too focused in timing, like a knife twist added to our saga. Marlowe jogged from stage right, handheld megaphone surprisingly alive, analog bullhorn. Council dispatch on shortwave says the entire Greater London power ring is offline. Transformers blew clear across the southeast. "What about hospitals?" I asked, dread curling. "Backup generators, but fuel limited." Rain started, soft at first, then intensifying, drumming on discarded plastic cups and stage decking. An exhalation from the sky. Hash, hash, hash. Drum and stage des. 5 minutes into blackout. Blue flashes popped in the skyline, overloaded substations cascading failure. Somewhere east, siren choruses layered like a broken sampler. In the crowd, parents clutched children. Pensioners leaned on strangers' shoulders. The benefit show had drawn families seeking solace. Now they faced another crisis. I raised the megaphone. "Everyone, breathe. We will guide you indoors." My voice boomed, tinny but clear. "Security staff, volunteers, create corridors to the turbine hall. It's reinforced, insulated." Finley leaned in. "We've got zero lighting." "Use acoustic breadcrumbs," I said. "Drums on the inside, cellos next, guitars flare at the end, like sonar." Cora grinned despite fear. Human lighthouse. We took our positions. Band members spaced every 10 meters from stage to the turbine hall doors. Cora's snare laid steady 4/4, heavy brushes. Rafa and Naima answered with minor key pulses. Jax walked arpeggios. I stood last, near the massive doors, Strat unplugged but resonant, strumming open chords that bounced off brickwork. The crowd followed sound points like migrating whales to ocean beats. Inside, emergency flame torches, old film set props left behind, provided dim amber glow. Medical volunteers cleared space on the concrete floor, setting up triage for anxiety attacks and sprained ankles. As the last stragglers entered, the rain outside turned torrential, a vertical river. The aurora streaks faded, leaving only pitch black. We sealed the doors against water surge. I checked watch. Analog remained ticking. EMP spared mechanical gears. 21:07. Less than 30 minutes had passed since final chord. Hash, hash, hash. We gathered near an improvised podium, a crate stacked on flight cases. I climbed atop, megaphone ready. "This story took us a long time. If you like it, subscribe." Now back to the story. A ripple of nervous laughter broke tension. Comic timing still mattered. "Okay," I continued. "We have shelter, we have first aid. Next, information." A radio operator from Event Security lugged an antique field transceiver, vacuum tubes safe from EMP. Static hissed, then a voice. "National grid cascading. Government advising shelter in place. Rail networks immobilized. Maintain calm." No mention of cause. Was it solar? Sabotage? Another corrupt council scheme? My mind raced. Finley approached with a scorched but functional acoustic guitar. Stage prop. "Lyra," he murmured. Crowds terrified. We need to keep them anchored. I nodded. Acoustic set. Story songs. We arranged semicircle around flickering torches. 6,000 people huddled, many seated on hoodies or foil blankets. The intimacy was surreal. No amplification, just wood, strings, and lungs. I opened with a lullaby my mother sang when storms hammered our roof. Verses floated into cavernous turbine hall, echoing back like ghosts. Someone's child joined, voice small but sure. Applause, soft palm claps, followed each song. Hours blurred into an acoustic vigil. Between songs, we shared survival tips. Rationing phone battery. Useless but comforting. Locating restroom signs. Mental health grounding exercises. Jax taught simple breathing patterns. 4 in, 6 out. Activate parasympathetic system. Hash, hash, hash. Asterisk, asterisk, 12:43 a.m. 7 hours into blackout. The radio crackled. Military convoys deploying diesel generators to critical sites. Civilian grid restoration, ETA not determined. Possible geomagnetic repeat events within 24 hours. Marlowe whispered, "Generators won't reach us before morning. People need warmth." Finley surveyed room. We still have the stage flats, heavy curtains. Within minutes, volunteers formed lines, ferrying velvet drapes from stage, layering them as blankets. Cellists lent rosin to volunteer units striking emergency fires in old steel drums once used for pyrotechnic effect. Ironic salvation. Cora found a battery-powered LED rope, the only accessory unaffected by EMP. She strung it overhead, giving hallway a starry-way ambience. Children pointed, awe momentarily eclipsing fear. Exhaustion hit like a brick. I slumped against turbine housing, closed eyes, but mind refused sleep. The aurora, the EMP, the sabotage chain. Events felt orchestrated. Llewellyn behind bars, but puppet strings led higher. I retrieved laptop data drives stashed in jacket after warehouse escape. Marlowe brought her old mechanical typewriter studio decor piece unaffected. Together we transcribed key schematics and emails. Import ledgers, inspection bypass orders signed by unknown initials, timed by DRX, times by D. Hubbard. DRX, that's Directorate of Resilient Infrastructure Executive Committee, Private Oversight Board. Shadow Division, Marlowe muttered. Budget buried in defense appropriations. So sabotage traced upward, I said. Maybe the EMP too, to erase digital evidence. We needed to smuggle this story beyond analog barriers. Hash, hash, hash? Asterisk, asterisk, 4:15 a.m. Toxstoms. Generators rumbled outside as army trucks arrived. Floodlights flickered alive. Diesel, not electric grid. Cheers erupted. A captain briefed us. Nationwide geomagnetic storm overloaded transformers. Grid restoration 48 hours minimum. Phones remain down except military bands. We're setting field hospitals and distribution centers. Your building classified as Zone 3 shelter. EMPs blamed on solar event. Plausible, but my gut twitched. DRX may spin secrets under cosmic cover. Captain requested volunteers to relay information to adjacent borough shelters. Finley stepped up, surprising me. We'll go. Musicians know every back alley. There are touring arteries. I agreed. We'll carry supplies and morale. Hash, hash, hash. Morning sun rose red through haze. We formed convoys. Cargo trikes loaded with food packs, guitars strapped for mobile concerts. Under police escort, we rode through powerless city. Traffic lights dark, shop alarms silent. Yet neighborliness bloomed, residents directing traffic manually, cafes serving perishables free. At Brixton Shelter, a nurse recognized me. Word spread. Impromptu courtyard concert formed. We offered songs of hope. Crowd reciprocated with stories of kindness. Strangers sharing insulin fridge space via camping coolers. 3 shelters later, we returned to Battersea. The courtyard now boasted field kitchens, water filtration rigs. Children played football under chimneys, laughter echoing. Government press conference broadcast via battery TVs stated restoration progressing. Skepticism remained. That night, we hosted the first Blackout Festival * acoustic performances, poetry slams, silent disco headphone dances, battery-powered. Candlelight flickered on faces hypnotized by simple human connection. In the hush before encore, I addressed assembly. Electricity powers amps, but heart powers harmony. This city thrums even unplugged. Thunderous applause. ###. Convaders Day 3 of blackout. Generators rationed. Fuel convoys delayed by gridlock. Captain requested scouting party to locate alternate diesel caches. Finley suggested record label distribution warehouse in Wembley. Truck fleet maybe full quarter tanks. Risky trek, 10 miles, uncertain roads, potential looters. I volunteered. Jax, Cora, and Finley joined. We set off dawn bicycles and one borrowed police Land Rover with analog ignition. Streets eerie, no engine hum, only bicycle chains and distant sirens. At Knightsbridge, we encountered makeshift barricade manned by civilians guarding water tanker. Tensions high. We offered acoustic performance to ease negotiations. Guitar temperament versus gun temperament. Music won. They allowed passage, gifting jerry cans. Near Wembley, we spotted smoke plume. Warehouse half-looted but delivery truck intact behind gate. Finley hotwired. We siphoned diesel into drums. Returning, we faced roadblock by masked group bearing DRX insignia on arm patches. They demanded fuel, claimed government requisition. Their convoy used unaffected pre-1980 vehicles resilient to EMP, suspicious preparedness. A standoff. Their leader, a stern woman with tactical vest, eyed our guitars. Artists wish to save world with song, she mocked. Hand over diesel. I stepped forward. This fuel powers hospital generators for ventilators. Steal it, people die. She smirked. Collateral. She raised hand to signal confiscation. Finley whispered, Lyra, hard case. I remembered the laptop evidence hidden in guitar case. DRX might kill to bury it. Fight or flee. 4 of them, armed. We had 1 Land Rover. Limited fuel. Cora revved engine, distracting. Jax hurled petrol can behind DRX Jeep, spilling diesel. I flicked lighter, tossed. A wall of flame erupted, forcing them back. We sped off, tires spitting gravel. Bullets cracked past mirrors. I crouched low, clutching hard case. ###. We reached Battersea with fuel and new intel. DRX linked to sabotage, employing armed units. Captain directed us to debrief military intelligence. Laptop drive now priceless. ###. Night, Turbine Hall. I opened hard case. Inside sat Strat plus drive. I removed guitar, plucked strings. Echo resonated in cavern. Finley approached, leaning on crate. Never thought I'd risk my life for diesel, he said. Never thought you'd risk yours for me, I replied. He chuckled, gaze softening. I deserve plenty of karma. Maybe this is penance. We're not done, I stared at drive. Truth, still gagged. From corridor, military radio blared. *. All units be advised. DRX detachment en route to Battersea. Priority retrieval. Classified data device. *. Finley and I locked eyes. They're coming, I whispered. I dashed to stage gear trunk, retrieved wireless pack, modified to transmit analog FM. Marlowe had tinkered earlier for vintage effect. We could broadcast drive contents via signal piggyback onto abandoned pirate radio tower nearby. Time slim. Finley rallied crew. Jax prepped motorcycle courier to tower with transmitter. I plugged drive into solar battery laptop, shielded by Faraday bag. Marlowe executed script to stream docs as audio tones. Digital packets encoded in chirps, a modem song. DRX jeeps appeared at South Gate, headlights slicing dark. Soldiers dismounted. Tower connection established. Modem tones screeched from speakers. Eerie music. Transmission bar ticked 10%. 25%. DRX breached gate. Gunfire into air. Panic inside hall. Security doors slammed, but hinges won't hold. I signaled Cora. Loud drum intro. Rest of band crashed into impromptu riot jazz. Sound deafening. The hall roared, masking modem tones from intruders who'd destroy laptop if heard. Transmissions 60%, 80%. DRX cut power to generators. Music died, but laptop on independent battery kept chirping faintly. They couldn't locate source among echoes. I saw leader woman from roadblock, flashlight scanning. 90%, 95%. She spotted glow under my crate. There! I kicked crate aside, grabbed laptop, sprinted up turbine staircase. Gunshot rang, ricocheted off railing. I ducked, felt heat graze ear. 99%. At catwalk apex, I turned, lifted strat-like shield. Another shot shattered pickup, sparks flying. 100%. Upload complete. Script auto-erased drive. Flashed done. I hurled compromised laptop over railing onto generator. Exploded sparks, destroying hardware. Leaders screamed, furious. I raised shattered strat defiantly. But rifle barrel leveled at my chest. Finger tightened. Sudden flashbang detonated behind her. Military counter teams stormed hall. DRX distracted, exchanging fire. I dove, sliding down ladder, adrenaline spiking. Below, Finley caught my fall. Soldiers secured DRX operatives. Captain approached, breathless. We intercepted their comms. Good thing you had backup. I laughed shakily. The song uploaded? Broadcast across FM, shortwave, internet nodes as soon as grid's up. Whistleblower networks already archiving. I looked at shattered strat, sacrificed instrument, immortal truth. Crowd inside hall, shelter citizens, cheered as DRX taken away. Some recognized significance, chanting asterisk, asterisk, play it, asterisk. Finley found undamaged acoustic, thrust it into my hands. I stepped onto makeshift stage, strings under fingers raw and alive. Cora tapped heartbeat. Jax anchored. The cellists wept while bowing first chord of a new piece forming inside me, a requiem for lies, an anthem for resilience. I sang, voice cracking yet strong. We are the signal, louder than silence, brighter than stolen light. Turbine hall erupted in harmony. Sometime later, a generator hummed to life, floodlights warmed. But we kept playing acoustic, because in that moment wood and breath were enough. When the final note floated upward, dawn seeped pink through broken panes. Finley whispered, "Show them sunrise." I nodded, turned to crowd, and opened doors. A hush fell as city skylight revealed columns of smoke thinning, power returning building by building. Horns erupted in distance, traffic lights reanimating. But our small world still glowed with candle and community. An elder stepped forward, hands trembling, offering a single rose salvaged from chaos. "For hope," she said. I accepted, petals velvety against calloused fingertips. Captain approached with walkie. "Grid will stabilize tonight. You'll have main stage power for closing concert. The world wants your encore." I glanced at friends, at battered instruments, at crowd-turned family. "We'll give them more than power," I said. "We'll give them ignition." Outside, sirens faded, replaced by birdsong. Yet even as relief settled, Marlowe tugged my sleeve, worry shadowing her gaze. "Transmission got out, yes," she whispered, "but DRX isn't the top of ladder. Someone funded them, someone bigger." Before I could answer, a civilian radio crackled with urgent bulletin. Times asterisk, international grid anomalies detected. Brussels, New York, Sydney experiencing synchronized surges. Authorities on highest alert. Asterisk. My pulse stuttered. Finley exhaled. World tour just got literal. I squeezed the rose, thorns pricking skin. Reminder, truth has cost. And as thunderheads gathered on the horizon, pregnant with storm yet named, I realized our final set might need to shake more than souls. It might need to shake empires. I lifted my gaze to the sky. "Buckle up," I murmured to the dawn. The clouds answered with distant rolling drums. The storm arrived with no name, yet everyone felt its pulse. 3 days after the blackout, London ran on patchquilt power, one borough bright as noon, the next a Victorian silhouette. Sirens wailed in near-constant relay as technicians frantically swapped fried transformers and strung temporary feeder lines that hissed like live vipers overhead. News traveled on analog radio and handwritten flyers pinned to lamp posts. Internet nodes flickered, up for minutes, then swallowed by phantom surges. The one constant was uncertainty and music. We'd spent 48 straight hours inside Battersea's turbine hall rehearsing by candle and generator hum, converting desperation into an anthem grand enough to carry across a wounded world. Between run-throughs, we sifted the mountain of data Marlowe had exfiltrated before DRX stormed the venue. Procurement orders routed through shell companies, conference call transcripts discussing Phase Aurora, bank transfers tied to a single signature block. Dorian Ricks, NovaForge Energy Consortium, DRX. The elusive puppeteer. NovaForge was no mere supplier. They were the skeleton key to global grids, licensing energy storage patents, lobbying for microgrid privatization, and now orchestrating failures to showcase need for their resilient tech. The O2 sabotage was just the overture. Blackouts blossomed in echo. Brussels Metro plunged into darkness at rush hour. New York's Midtown dimmed like a dying jack-o'-lantern. Sydney's Harbor Bridge shimmered, then went dark mid-vivid festival. Each outage primed public fear, and every press release ended with NovaForge promising turnkey salvation. Rhea leaned against a coil of stage cable, reading aloud an internal memo, projected market capture following Phase Aurora, 63% Western grid share within fiscal Q4. Her lip curled. They're crashing the system to sell the cure. Finley slammed a fist into his palm. So we broadcast stronger. Blow their cover to every human with a battery radio. Broadcast from where? Cora asked. They'll jam anything near population centers. We need a high-gain, line-of-sight channel. Eyes drifted toward the disused latticework of Battersea's iconic chimneys. Built for coal smoke, now silent. But the roofs, steel-reinforced, 65 meters high, offered a clear shot at the whole city. ###. Tom's Operation Power Cord ***. The plan formed between coffee swigs and power grid schematics scrawled across drumskins. We'd climb the northwest chimney, rig Marlowe's makeshift ultra-shortwave transmitter to the lightning rod, then stream the evidence package as a continuous data tone broadcast. Old-school pirate radio, but on a frequency piggybacking the UK's legally mandated civil defense signal. No regulator could kill it without admitting they'd silenced emergency comms. All we needed was 22 minutes of uninterrupted uplink, which meant distracting NovaForge's private security, now parked in matte black SUVs outside every major generator cluster in the city. Finley suggested what he does best, spectacle. We stage a pseudo-amplified preview gig on the plaza. Tons of lights, drone cameras, smoke. NovaForge sends half their squad to monitor or shut us down, leaving chimney route thinner. Captain Adler supplied crowd control barriers and borrowed floodlights running from independent solar arrays. Word spread mouth to mouth. Free concert tonight. The lights may fail, but the heart will hold. ###. 1945. Purple dusk bathed the courtyard when we walked on stage. I wore a sleeveless denim jacket scrawled with fresh marker. Truth feeds the grid. Finley sported a t-shirt whose front read, I stole the solo, and back read, she stole it back. Laughter rippled through the crowd. Tension's first fracture. Cora counted us in. We launched into a stripped-down burner that blended slide guitar blues with steampunk cello ostinato. As we played, Marlowe and Jax, dressed as riggers, slipped past the loading bay with transmitter components hidden in road cases labeled Tom's Fog Fluid. Floodlights made the plaza a beacon visible for miles. Sure enough, 10 minutes into the set, 2 unmarked SUVs idled curbside, men in gray tactical gear watching through tinted windows. Another van pulled near rear gates, NovaForge's mobile command dish sprouting from roof like a military orchid. On the second chorus, I caught Finley's eye. He nodded. Security visibility confirmed. Time to move. I stepped to Mike. London? Every blackout proves one thing. Darkness can't stop a chorus. Cheers erupted. I continued. We have a brand new track. If the lights cut, sing the hook. Keep the beat on your chest. Be our living amplifier. As audience practiced clapping rhythm, I ducked backstage, where a stairwell led to maintenance ladders inside the chimney stack. Rafa waited with harnesses, Marlowe already halfway up lugging pack of copper wire, signal booster, Faraday cage laptop. We clipped in and ascended. Hash. Call said chimney climb. The interior was a rusted throat, iron rungs slick with soot-slick damp. My flashlight traced graffiti decades old. Elvis 1956 *, Stop Maggie, Conk Lives. Our boot scrapes rang like snare hits. Halfway up, we passed cracked viewports showing Nova Forge vans below, attention fixed on Plaza where Finley had triggered pyrotechnic flares. Astonishing, given the city's power ration. He'd bartered leftover diesel for compressed air confetti cannons, no spark risk. Breath ragged, we emerged on the narrow rim. Wind howled from the river, whipping hair. London lay patchworked, some blocks glowing amber, others tomb dark. The Shard blinked sporadic red. In the distance, lightning spidered clouds, nature echoing our rebel electricity. Marlowe anchored tripod and lashed transmitter dish to lightning rod. I unpacked laptop, connected via serial cleats. She tuned dials. An analog sweep of frequencies whistled. At 2012 kilohertz, the carrier tone pulsed strong. Civil Defense Skeleton Channel, she confirmed. I inserted encrypted SD card. 980 megabytes of documents, schematics, audio of Rix plotting with Llewellyn, and a 3-minute explanatory video in 20 languages. Marlowe's script converted payload into FLAC audio encoded as waterfall spectrogram. Pirate radio enthusiasts worldwide would record, decode, seed online, unstoppable. Uploading, she hit enter. A hiss rose in our earpieces like champagne fizzing, data streaming. We had 14 minutes until completion. Hash. Tommen countermove. Below, engine roars shattered song. Nova Forge security realized distraction. One SUV peeled off toward chimney. Through scope, I saw men exit. Shoulder flashlights. Brandish compact SMGs. Illegal for private security, but convenient when you own the grid. 2 contacts ascending west exterior ladder, Rafa whispered into throat mic. I radioed Finley. Crowd noise roared behind his reply. On it. On Plaza, Finley ditched guitar, sprinted to FOH table, yanked spare generator's governor, sending floodlights into overstress. Halogen banks burst, showering sparks. Gasps turned to screams. Crowds surged away from stage, blocking street where SUVs idled, trapping second squad. Chimney attackers kept climbing. Marlowe checked timer, 11:08 left. Rafa unslung cello case, inside nestled not instrument but rope coils and carabiners. Plan B, he asked. Plan improv, I answered. Wind intensified, keening through scaffolding. I peered over rim, assailants 20 meters below, no time for diplomacy. I secured rope to girder, clipped harness. You guard upload, I told Marlowe. Rafa belay. I rappelled down inside of chimney, boots bracing slimy bricks. Shadows moved upward, beams of light speared soot haze. One guard looked up, eyes widened. Stop or the file goes global, I shouted, bluffing. They didn't know upload progress. He raised SMG. I swung sideways, rope taut, bullet ricochet sparks showering as round struck iron rung. I kicked him descending, momentum knocking him off ladder. He dangled by safety lanyard cursing. Second guard lunged, grabbed my rope, trying to jerk me free. I wrapped legs round rung, elbowed his helmet. Pain shot, but he slipped, lost grip, sliding 3 meters before catching rail. Upload timer, 4:02. Guards retreated downward, maybe regrouping for rooftop breach. I scrambled back up, lungs aflame. Hash. Trounce breach. Surface again, Marlowe shouted. 2 more inbound on aerial drone. A quadcopter throbbed upward, camera pod bristling maybe with jammer. She tossed me flare guns scavenged from stage effects. I aimed at drone's battery pack, fired. Orange comet hissed. Direct hit. Drone spazzed, spiraled, exploded against masonry, shards falling like burning snow. Timer 140. Wind shifted. Thunder boomed. Storm front overtook city. First raindrops smacked cheeks. Static crackled in air. Ionized frenzy. Below, I glimpsed Finley on Plaza leading chant of stomps, converting panic into protest. Each footfall created seismic rhythm amplified by buildings' cavities, disorienting remaining security. Timer 042. Men on ladder resumed ascent. Too late. Marlowe voiced countdown. At 0, laptop emitted long confirmation tone. Broadcast locked loop mode. No longer needed us alive. Relief surged, until muzzle flash blossomed from laddermouth. Bullet-seared dish, splintering ceramic feed horn. Broadcast might degrade. I dove atop transmitter, shielding with body. A second shot rang. Pain lanced shoulder, graze. Wind tore scarf away. Rafa hauled me back. Lightning struck distant tower, thunder concussive. We couldn't hold sight, but loop would persist on reduced power for hours. We slung gear bag, clipped to zipline rig pre-installed for descent along northeast guy wire. Thank you, adrenaline foresight. One by one we leapt, Rafa first, then me, then Marlowe, sliding above rooftops as rain hissed around steel cable. Guards reached rim too late. One fired, bullet whined past ear. Below, we landed on service platform, sprinted through maintenance corridor into turbine hall, where crowd sheltering cheered at our re-entry. News had spread via handheld rigs. Truth broadcast received in Manchester, Paris, Chicago. Data mirrors blossomed across ham radio BBS nodes. ###. Moderix exposed. Hours later, International Newswire, operated from Analog Backup Center in Geneva, splashed headline, Moder *, documents link NovaForge to global blackouts. CEO, Dorian Ricks under investigation, *. Markets reacted even in outage-crippled conditions. NovaForge stock halted. Emergency parliamentary session convened under candlelight, voting to seize company assets for audit. Ricks released statement condemning, quote, false narratives. Minutes later, additional audio surfaced of him remarking, let the world sit in the dark until they buy our light. Public fury erupted. ###. Statement, the encore, to end all encores. 2 nights after broadcast, Grid East returned stable. Captain Adler, now minor celebrity, green-lit closing concert inside the Turbine Hall, a gift to volunteers who kept city breathing. No LED walls, no pyro, just analog amps run from freshly repaired city feed and thousands of lanterns. I walked on stage holding a new guitar, crafted overnight by luthier fan using reclaimed O2 trusswood. He called it the Phoenix. Copper inlays shaped like rising flames traced fretboard. We opened with a hush, single cello drone beneath whispered spoken word, Rafa reciting a poem salvaged from chimney graffiti. Then drums joined, heartbeat steady. Bass answered, rich and assured. When my guitar finally breathed first chord, the hall glowed amber, lantern light reflecting off once-haunted turbines. Mid-set, Finley stepped forward. For years I chased spotlight like it could warm my doubts. Turns out the brightest light is one you share. He turned to me. Lyra, can I borrow your solo? I laughed, handed him the Phoenix. He played first bars. I harmonized a new counter-melody, fierce yet tender. Audience swayed, tears gleaming. We segued into the final song, Grid of Hearts, a piece we'd written that afternoon, weaving crowd claps and foot stomps into percussive tapestry. The chorus soared. We are circuits, we are light. When one burns out, the rest ignite. As last chord resonated, a hush descended. I stepped to edge of stage.